The first light of dawn painted the Martinez family kitchen in soft amber hues, a gentle warmth that belied the intensity brewing within its walls. Sarah Martinez sat at the worn wooden table, her slim fingers tracing the edges of an old aviation map, a map that held more stories than any bedtime tale she'd ever heard. Photographs of aircraft lined the walls like a genealogy of flight, each image a testament to her family's deep-rooted connection to the skies. Robert Martinez moved about the kitchen with the precision of a pilot navigating through turbulent air. Every morning followed the same ritual: coffee brewing, flight charts spread out, a methodical review of the day's route. But today was different. Sarah could sense it in the way her father's movements seemed more deliberate, his eyes carrying a weight that went beyond the usual pre-flight preparations. "Come here, Mia," Robert called, his voice a mixture of stern instruction and paternal warmth. Sarah approached, her bare feet padding softly against the cool kitchen tile. Her father's hands strong, weathered hands that had guided countless aircraft through impossible conditions, now spread out a topographical map of the Arizona desert. "What do you see?" he asked, his finger tracing the intricate lines that represented elevation, terrain, potential landing sites. Sarah had learned early that with her father, every moment was a lesson. At 12 years old, she had more knowledge about aviation than most adults. Her bedroom wasn't decorated with posters of pop stars or movie heroes, but with detailed schematics of aircraft, weather pattern charts, and navigation maps. "The route follows the Colorado River Basin," she responded, her voice steady. "Potential crosswinds from the mountain ranges here," she pointed, "could create challenging conditions near the Superstition Mountains." Robert's eyes crinkled with pride. Most fathers might have ruffled their daughter's hair or offered a simple praise. But Robert Martinez understood that true learning came from continuous challenge, from pushing beyond comfortable boundaries. The Martinez family wasn't just another Arizona household. They were aviation royalty in their own right. Robert's father had been a military pilot, his grandfather a pioneering aviator who had flown some of the earliest commercial routes across the American Southwest. Flying wasn't just a profession for them. It was a calling, a sacred trust passed down through generations. Sarah's mother, Elena, a meteorologist who had met Robert during a conference on atmospheric research, watched the interaction with a mixture of love and concern. She understood the risks, the thin line between adventure and disaster that pilots walked every single day. Yet she had never tried to clip her daughter's wings or her husband's ambitions. "Today's run is special," Robert said, spreading out additional documents. A cargo manifest, detailed flight plans, communication logs. Sarah knew this wasn't just another routine transport. Something about the way her father's fingers moved across the documents suggested significance beyond the standard delivery. The cargo they would transport today was more than just a collection of packages. It was a lifeline for remote communities, medical supplies that could mean the difference between life and death for someone in an isolated desert town. This was the true heart of their aviation work, not just transportation, but a critical service that connected the most vulnerable parts of the southwestern landscape. Outside, the Cessna waited. Not a sleek, modern aircraft, but a well-maintained workhorse that had seen decades of service. To Sarah, it was more than a machine. It was a living entity, with its own history, its own personality. She had spent countless hours learning its nuances, understanding how each slight movement, each subtle vibration told a story. Her father believed in hands-on learning. While other children her age were consumed by video games and social media, Sarah was learning to read wind patterns, understand aircraft mechanics, and navigate using both traditional instruments and cutting-edge GPS technology. Her education was a perfect blend of old-school aviation wisdom and modern technological precision. Remember, Robert said, his voice dropping to a near whisper, an aircraft is more than a machine. It's a living system. It wants to fly. Your job is to understand its language, to work with it, not against it. These weren't just words. They were a philosophy, a way of understanding the delicate relationship between human skill and mechanical marvel. Sarah absorbed every word, every nuance, her mind creating intricate mental maps of possibility and potential. A kitchen transformed, from a simple family space to a pre-flight command center. Elena prepared a thermos of coffee, packed lunches, checked and double-checked communication equipment. Nothing was left to chance. In the world of aviation, preparation wasn't just important, it was survival. As the morning progressed, Sarah helped her father with the pre-flight checklist. Each item was a ritual, each check a prayer to the gods. Of safe passage, fuel levels, hydraulic systems, communication equipment, weather reports, everything was meticulously examined and cross-examined. Little did any of them know that this day would become more than just another flight. The skies held a destiny that none could predict, a series of events that would transform their lives forever. The silent Arizona morning, with its promise of endless blue and golden desert light, waited patient, unknowing, about to become the stage for an extraordinary human drama. The map before them was more than lines and coordinates. It was a canvas of potential, a silent promise of adventure, danger, and unexpected heroism waiting to unfold. The Cessna cut through the morning air with a familiar, steady hum of sound that had been the backdrop of Sarah's entire life. Outside the cockpit windows, the Arizona landscape unfolded like a golden tapestry, alternating between rugged mountain ranges and vast, undulating desert plains. Inside, the atmosphere was a carefully choreographed dance of professional concentration. Captain Robert Martinez adjusted the aircraft's heading with the subtle precision of a maestro conducting an intricate symphony. Jack Thompson, the co-pilot, monitored the instrument panel, his experienced fingers dancing across various switches and dials. Sarah sat quietly behind them, not as a passive passenger, but as a silent student, her eyes constantly moving between the pilots and the complex array of instruments. The morning's cargo was secured a critical shipment of medical supplies, destined for a remote clinic serving several isolated desert communities. These weren't just packages. They were lifelines, each box potentially containing vaccines, emergency medications, or crucial medical equipment that could mean the difference between life and death for people living far from conventional medical infrastructure. Jack turned slightly, catching Sarah's eye with a warm smile. "Your dad's teaching you the fine art of cargo runs, I see," he said, his voice a mixture of professional calm and genuine affection. Jack had known the Martinez family for years, had watched Sarah grow from a toddler fascinated by toy airplanes to a young girl who seemed to breathe aviation like oxygen. Robert chuckled, a deep sound that resonated through the cockpit. "She knows more about these instruments than most commercial pilots I've worked with," he responded, pride evident in every syllable. Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest, not from embarrassment, but from the pure joy of being recognized for her passion. The radio crackled periodically with routine communications. Air traffic controllers provided updates on wind conditions, other aircraft in the vicinity, minor course corrections. To an untrained ear, it might have sounded like mundane chatter. To Sarah, it was a complex language of safety and precision. Nobody could have predicted the next moments. It began with a subtle change, almost imperceptible. Robert's hand, steady on the control yoke, suddenly trembled. His breath caught a small, almost inaudible gasp that would have been missed by anyone less attuned to the cockpit's rhythm. Sarah's eyes immediately snapped to her father, her trained observation picking up the minutest change in his demeanor. "Jack," Robert's voice was different, now strained, constricted. "Something's not." The words dissolved into a gurgling sound, a terrifying indication that something was fundamentally wrong. Jack's professional training kicked in instantly. "Robert, Robert." His hands moved to check on the captain, momentarily leaving the aircraft's controls. In those few seconds, the Cessna began to lose its perfect, calculated trajectory. Sarah watched in growing horror as her father's strong body began to fold in on itself, his face contorting in what seemed like an explosion of internal pain. A heart attack, she would later learn, was claiming her father with ruthless efficiency. The cockpit, moments ago a place of calm professionalism, transformed into a scene of sudden, violent medical emergency. Jack, attempting to stabilize both the aircraft and Robert, suddenly jerked backward. His own body betrayed him, muscles spasming, consciousness rapidly slipping away. A stroke, a cruel, simultaneous medical assault that defied statistical probability, was rendering both pilots incapacitated. The aircraft began to wobble, alarms erupting in a cacophony of electronic warnings. Altitude indicators flickered, the artificial horizon spun wildly, and the steady hum of the engines became an erratic, threatening sound. Gravity, that most fundamental and unforgiving force, began to assert its dominance. Sarah's world condensed into a single, crystalline moment of absolute clarity. Everything her father had ever taught her, every casual lesson, every weekend spent studying aviation manuals, every moment of patient instruction converged in this singular, terrifying instant. The cockpit was no longer just a place of learning, but a battlefield where survival hung by the most delicate of threads. Her small hands, which moments ago had been resting casually, now moved with a precision that belied her age. Muscle memory drilled into her through countless hours of observation, and practice began to take over. The panic that would have consumed most 12-year-olds was somehow held at bay, pushed down by a core of steel that seemed to have been forged specifically for this moment. The aircraft continued its descent, the ground previously a distant, abstract concept now rushing up with terrifying immediacy. Dust clouds and rocky terrain transformed from a picturesque landscape to a potentially fatal destination. Sarah's mind raced, processing information faster than most adults could comprehend. The medical emergency, the loss of pilot control, the rapidly changing flight dynamics, all of it became a complex problem to be solved, not a reason for terror. In the next few moments, everything would be decided. The line between survival and catastrophic failure was razor-thin, measured in seconds and inches. And at the center of this potential disaster sat a 12-year-old girl, about to be tested in ways no child should ever be tested. The skies of Arizona, vast and indifferent, continued their silent watch. Time seemed to fracture and slow, each millisecond expanding into an eternity of potential outcomes. Sarah's world narrowed to the cockpit's intricate landscape of instruments. Her previous life school, friends, childhood games dissolving, like morning mist against the brutal clarity of survival. Her father's voice echoed in her mind, a phantom instructor speaking through muscle memory and countless hours of unintentional training. An aircraft is a living system, Robert would say during their weekend practice sessions. It communicates constantly. Your job is to listen, to understand its language. The Cessna shuddered, a living creature in pain, fighting against gravity's merciless pull. Alarms screamed their electronic warnings, a cacophony designed to induce panic. But panic was a luxury Sarah could not afford. Her eyes darted across the instrument panel, processing information with a speed that would have astounded professional pilots. Altitude was dropping rapidly. The artificial horizon spun like a demented compass, indicating the aircraft's dangerous tilt. To her right, her father lay motionless, his breathing shallow and irregular. Jack Thompson was slumped against the co-pilot's window, unconscious and unresponsive. The responsibility of their lives and her own rested entirely on her shoulders. Sarah's hands, which had spent countless hours on flight simulators and tracing her father's navigation charts, now hovered above the control yoke. These weren't the hands of a child, but the extension of a mind that had been preparing for this moment her entire life. She remembered the first time her father had let her sit in the cockpit. She was 7 years old, her legs too short to reach. The rudder pedals. Robert had positioned her on a specially designed booster seat, explaining every dial, every switch with the patience of a master craftsman teaching an apprentice. "See this?" he would say, pointing to various instruments. "This isn't just metal and electronics. This is how we communicate with the sky." Those lessons had seemed like games, then intricate, complex games that most children would have found boring. But Sarah had been different. While other kids her age were consumed by social media and video games, she was learning the intricate dance of aerodynamics, meteorology, and mechanical engineering. Her mother, Elena, had been equally instrumental. As a meteorologist, she had taught Sarah to read weather patterns, to understand how wind, temperature, and atmospheric pressure interacted. These weren't abstract concepts, but living, breathing systems that could mean the difference between a safe journey and catastrophic failure. Now, those lessons crystallized into pure survival instinct. The first step was stabilization. Sarah's fingers moved to the trim controls, making minute adjustments to counteract the aircraft's wild oscillations. Her foot pressed gently on the rudder pedal, feeling the aircraft's response through her entire body. It was more than mechanical control. It was a conversation, a delicate negotiation with a multi-ton machine fighting against gravity. External conditions added complexity. The Arizona desert was unforgiving, temperatures rising, creating unpredictable thermal currents that could destabilize the aircraft in seconds. Mountainous terrain surrounded them, each ridge and canyon a potential fatal obstacle. Sarah accessed the radio, her voice surprisingly steady. Years of listening to her father's professional communications had taught her the precise, calm language of aviation professionals. "Mayday, Mayday," she began, her words clipped and clear. "Cessna November 542 Alpha. Pilots incapacitated. Requesting immediate assistance." The radio crackled. For a moment, silence, a terrifying pause that seemed to stretch into infinity. Then a voice, professional, calm. "November 542 Alpha. This is Tucson Air Traffic Control. We read you. Can you provide your current status?" In that moment, Sarah understood the true meaning of her father's teachings. This wasn't just about technical skills. This was about maintaining composure, about transforming fear into focused action. She began providing precise details: altitude, approximate location, visual landmarks. The air traffic controller, initially skeptical, quickly recognized the systematic, professional nature of the communication. This was no child's prank. This was a genuine emergency. The aircraft continued its precarious dance with gravity. Each correction was a calculated risk, each movement a negotiation between potential disaster and survival. Sarah's mind operated with a quantum-like processing speed, simultaneously managing multiple complex systems. Hydraulic pressure, fuel levels, engine temperature, wind speed, terrain proximity, all of these became interconnected variables in a complex equation of survival. Her father's lessons hadn't just been about flying. They had been about understanding systems, about seeing connections that others might miss. Her small frame belied the enormous concentration happening within. Sweat beaded on her forehead, not from fear, but from intense focus. This was beyond heroism. This was pure, unadulterated human potential being unleashed in its most raw and powerful form. The air traffic controller's voice remained a constant, supportive presence. "You're doing great," they would say periodically. Just keep doing exactly what you're doing. But Sarah knew the real challenge was yet to come. Landing an aircraft was exponentially more complex than maintaining altitude. The margin for error was microscopic, the consequences of a mistake potentially fatal. As the desert landscape rushed closer, Sarah Martinez, a 12-year-old girl who moments ago was just another passenger, transformed into something extraordinary. She wasn't just flying an aircraft. She was rewriting the very definition of human capability. The sky watched. The desert waited. Destiny held its breath. The radio headset felt different against Sarah's ears. No longer a passive listening device, but a lifeline connecting her to survival. In the Tucson Air Traffic Control Center, a symphony of technology and human expertise was rapidly mobilizing, triggered by the most unexpected of emergency calls. Controller Mark Rodriguez had seen countless emergencies during his 20-year career. He'd guided pilots through mechanical failures, medical emergencies, and treacherous weather conditions. But never, not once in his entire career, had he been confronted with a scenario quite like this. "Repeat your current status," Mark said, his voice deliberately calm. Years of training had taught him that panic was the most dangerous passenger in any emergency. Sarah's response came back, crisp and methodical. "Cessna November 542 Alpha. Both pilots are unconscious. Current altitude 8,300 feet. Experiencing slight gravitational instability. Request immediate landing guidance." Mark's fingers flew across multiple computer screens, pulling up the Cessna's flight plan, current GPS coordinates, and a real-time topographical map of the Arizona desert. His secondary monitor showed a video feed from nearby surveillance drones, providing additional visual context of the aircraft's trajectory. "November 542 Alpha," he responded. "We're going to get you down safely. First, I need you to confirm your fuel levels and current aircraft condition." In the background, the control center erupted into controlled chaos. A senior controller, Janet Simmons, was already coordinating emergency response teams. Ambulances were being dispatched, remote airstrips were being cleared, and military aircraft were being put on standby. Sarah's mind raced through her father's countless lessons. Every weekend practice, every casual conversation about aviation, every moment spent studying aircraft systems now converged into a singular point of focus. She scanned the fuel gauges, cross-referencing with the aircraft's performance indicators. Fuel levels at approximately 68%, showing stable pressure, she reported. Hydraulic systems functioning at 82% capacity. Minor vibration in the right wing, potentially from earlier turbulence. Mark exchanged a quick glance with Janet. The level of technical precision in the child's communication was extraordinary. This wasn't panic or guesswork. This was systematic, professional-level reporting. The Arizona landscape below was a treacherous canvas of potential landing sites and fatal obstacles. Mountain ranges jutted like prehistoric spine fragments. Deep canyons carved intricate challenges into the terrain. Every 1,000 feet of altitude represented a rapidly closing window of survival options. "We're going to guide you to a remote airstrip near Picacho Peak," Mark explained, his fingers dancing across specialized navigation software. "It's a rarely used emergency landing site, but it provides the best approach given your current trajectory." Emergency protocols dictated multiple layers of support. While Mark guided Sarah verbally, a team of specialists were simultaneously calculating potential scenarios, wind conditions, and aircraft dynamics. Military reconnaissance drones provided real-time visual tracking, their high-resolution cameras capturing every nuanced movement of the imperiled Cessna. Sarah's world had compressed into a three-dimensional chess match against gravity, terrain, and mechanical uncertainty. Each adjustment of the aircraft's controls was a calculated risk, each communication a delicate negotiation between human capability and technological limitation. "I'm experiencing increased turbulence near the mountain base," Sarah reported, her voice revealing just a hint of the immense pressure she was experiencing. Wind speeds appear to be fluctuating more rapidly than standard desert thermal patterns. Mark's team quickly cross-referenced her observations with real-time meteorological data. Local weather stations confirmed unusual atmospheric conditions, complex interaction of temperature gradients and wind streams that made the landing even more challenging. Military communication channels were now fully engaged. F-16 fighter jets from a nearby base were placed on standby, ready to provide visual guidance or potential emergency intervention. Search and rescue helicopters were being positioned strategically along the projected flight path. The human drama unfolding was unprecedented. A 12-year-old girl, her unconscious father and co-pilot beside her, was engaged in a life-or-death negotiation with an aircraft that seemed determined to defy her. "Control. Sarah," Mark said, using her first name deliberately to maintain a personal connection. "You're doing an exceptional job. Your next critical phase will be configuring the aircraft for landing approach. I'm going to talk you through each step." He began a systematic, step-by-step guidance process. Lower the landing gear. Adjust flap configurations. Manage approach speed. Each instruction was a delicate balance between technical precision and psychological support. Sarah's hands moved with a combination of learned muscle memory and pure survival instinct. The cockpit controls, which had seemed like mysterious instruments during casual weekend practices, now felt like extensions of her own nervous system. The desert below was no longer just a landscape. It was a complex topographical challenge, each ridge and valley a potential point of fatal contact. Wind currents played their own unpredictable game, creating invisible obstacles that could spell disaster with the slightest miscalculation. Military communication channels crackled with a mixture of professional tension and barely concealed amazement. Pilots listening to the communication exchange couldn't believe a child was navigating such a complex emergency with such remarkable composure. Mark Rodriguez knew he was witnessing something extraordinary. This wasn't just an emergency landing. This was a redefinition of human potential, a moment that would challenge every preconceived notion about capability, age, and human resilience. The Cessna continued its precarious descent, a metal vessel carrying not just unconscious pilots and critical medical cargo, but a narrative of unexpected heroism that would soon captivate an entire nation. The sky watched, the desert waited. Survival hung in the balance. The final approach was a symphony of controlled chaos, a delicate dance between human determination and mechanical precision. Picacho Peak's remote airstrip materialized like a thin gray ribbon cutting through the golden-brown desert landscape. Its existence known only to a select few emergency response teams and local aviation professionals. Sarah's hands moved with a fluidity that defied her age, each adjustment microscopic yet critically important. The landing gear extended with a mechanical groan that seemed to echo the aircraft's own struggle for survival. Wind currents played their treacherous game, pushing against the Cessna with invisible but powerful hands. "Approaching final descent," Sarah reported, her voice steady despite the hurricane of adrenaline coursing through her body. The radio crackled with Mark Rodriguez's continued guidance, a lifeline of professional support stretching across the electromagnetic spectrum. The ground rushed up with terrifying immediacy. Dust clouds began to form around the approaching aircraft, a desert sentinel marking the potential site of either triumph or tragedy. Every instrument, every sensory input became a critical piece of information: airspeed, altitude, wind direction, terrain proximity. Beside her, the unconscious forms of her father and Jack Thompson lay motionless. The medical cargo critical supplies, meant to save lives in remote communities, remained securely fastened, a silent testament to the mission's importance. Sarah was acutely aware that her actions would determine not just the survival of those in the aircraft, but potentially the lives waiting for those medical supplies. The airstrip was nothing like the carefully maintained runways of major airports. This was a utilitarian landing zone designed for emergency situations. Its surface a combination of compacted earth and minimal ground preparation, each imperfection in the terrain could spell disaster. Mark's voice remained a constant professional anchor. Maintain your current approach angle. You're doing perfectly. But perfection was a luxury Sarah couldn't afford. This was pure survival and negotiation, with physics, gravity, and mechanical limitations. The first contact with the ground came as a violent shock. The Cessna's wheels touched down with a combination of precision and desperation. Sarah's body tensed, every muscle prepared for the potential catastrophic failure that could happen in the next few seconds. The aircraft bounced once, twice each contact with the ground, a potential point of no return. Dust erupted around them, creating a visibility-destroying cloud that transformed the world into a chaotic brown landscape. The sound was apocalyptic, a combination of screaming metal, grinding earth, and the pure physical protest of a machine being pushed beyond its designed limits. Sarah's hands remained firm on the controls, managing the aircraft's deceleration with a skill that would have been remarkable in a professional pilot, let alone a 12-year-old child. The brake systems engaged, hydraulic pressure working in perfect synchronization with her carefully calculated inputs. And then silence. The Cessna came to a complete stop, tilted slightly to one side, surrounded by a rapidly settling cloud of desert dust. For a moment, the only sound was the ticking of cooling metal and the distant whir of approaching emergency vehicles. Sarah's breath came in ragged gasps. The adrenaline that had sustained her through the impossible landing now began to recede, revealing the full weight of what had just occurred. Emergency response was instantaneous. The first responders had been tracking the aircraft's descent, their vehicles strategically positioned to provide immediate medical and technical support. Within moments, the first ambulance arrived, followed closely by fire and rescue teams. Paramedics approached the aircraft with a combination of caution and urgency. The scene that greeted them was unprecedented: an unconscious pilot and co-pilot, and a young girl who appeared more composed than most adults would be in such a situation. "We have 2 adults with apparent medical emergencies," the lead paramedic reported into his radio. "One suspected heart attack, 1 potential stroke, and a child who appears to be unharmed." Medical teams worked with practiced efficiency. Robert Martinez and Jack Thompson were carefully extracted from the aircraft, oxygen masks applied, vital signs monitored. Sarah watched, her initial shock giving way to a deep, almost primal concern for her father. The medical cargo was carefully inventoried, each package of medical supplies checked and secured. The mission that had begun as a routine cargo run had transformed into something far more significant. Investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board began to arrive. Their initial assessment was one of pure amazement. The landing, while far from textbook perfect, was nothing short of miraculous considering the circumstances. Sarah sat wrapped in a shock blanket, her small frame seemingly lost in the large piece of protective material. Emergency responders approached her with a mixture of professional concern and barely concealed amazement. "Can you tell me what happened?" one investigator asked, his notebook ready. And so the story began to unfold, a tale of unexpected heroism, of preparation meeting opportunity, of a child's remarkable capability in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. The Arizona desert, vast and indifferent, continued its timeless watch. Another extraordinary human drama had played out against its golden brown landscape, another story of survival etched into its ancient terrain. The day was far from over. The real journey of understanding, of recovery, of comprehending the extraordinary events that had just transpired was just beginning. The digital age consumed stories like wildfire, but nothing could have prepared the world for the extraordinary narrative that was about to unfold. Within hours of the emergency landing, Sarah Martinez's face became more recognizable than most. Hollywood celebrities, her story a beacon of unexpected heroism that would captivate an entire nation. The first images were grainy, captured by a local news helicopter that happened to be near the remote landing site. A small figure wrapped in a shock blanket, surrounded by emergency responders, became the visual anchor of a story that seemed too incredible to be true. News networks scrambled to piece together the narrative. A 12-year-old girl who had successfully landed a cargo plane after both pilots were incapacitated. At Good Samaritan Hospital in Phoenix, Robert Martinez and Jack Thompson fought their own battles. Robert's heart attack and Jack's stroke had been severe, but timely medical intervention provided a glimmer of hope. Doctors marveled at the circumstances, how the quick landing and immediate medical response had potentially saved both men's lives. Elena Martinez became the unexpected spokesperson for her daughter's extraordinary moment. A meteorologist by training, she approached the media circus with a combination of scientific precision and maternal pride. Her first press conference became a masterclass in measured communication. Sarah has always been an extraordinary child, Elena explained to a packed room of journalists, her voice steady despite the emotional turmoil. But what happened that day wasn't about extraordinary talent. It was about preparation, training, and an incredible will to survive. Footage began to emerge, snippets of radio communications, interviews with air traffic controllers, expert analyses that broke down every moment of the impossible landing. Mark Rodriguez, the air traffic controller, who had guided Sarah, became an overnight media sensation himself. His detailed accounts of the communication revealed a level of composure that defied belief. In 20 years of controller work, I've never witnessed anything like this, Mark told national news networks. She communicated with the precision of a professional pilot, managed complex systems under extreme stress, and maintained absolute composure. Social media exploded. #MiraclePilot trended globally, with millions sharing and resharing the story. Aviation experts, child psychologists, and news commentators all offered their perspectives. Was this a once-in-a-lifetime miracle? A testament to extraordinary childhood potential, or something more? Educational institutions and aviation organizations began to take notice. The Martinez family was inundated with interview requests, scholarship offers, and opportunities that seemed to materialize out of thin air. Aviation schools contacted Elena, expressing interest in Sarah's remarkable abilities. But beneath the media spectacle, a more complex story was emerging. Sarah herself seemed almost uncomfortable with the attention. In rare interview snippets, she consistently redirected praise to her father's teachings, to the air traffic controllers, to the emergency responders. "I just did what my dad always taught me," she would say, a phrase that would become emblematic of her humble approach to extraordinary circumstances. Psychological evaluations revealed something even more remarkable. Sarah wasn't just a child who had gotten lucky. Her test results showed an extraordinary combination of spatial reasoning, technical understanding, and emotional intelligence that placed her in a category of exceptional cognitive ability. The National Transportation Safety Board launched a comprehensive investigation. Their preliminary reports were nothing short of extraordinary. Every action Sarah had taken during the emergency landing was meticulously analyzed, revealing a level of skill and decision-making that would be impressive in a seasoned pilot, let alone a 12-year-old child. Documentary filmmakers began competing for the rights to tell her story. Major news networks produced in-depth special reports, Each piece tried to capture the essence of what had made this moment so extraordinary. But for Sarah, the media sensation was secondary to her primary concerns. Her father's recovery, the well-being of Jack Thompson, the medical supplies that had been successfully delivered, these were the things that truly mattered. Robert Martinez's condition stabilized slowly. When he first became conscious, his first question was about the flight, about the cargo, about his daughter. The doctors were amazed by his resilience, attributing his survival partially to the quick and precise landing. "She's always been extraordinary," Robert would tell nurses and visitors, his voice filled with a mixture of pride and wonder. But this was something else entirely. The aviation community responded with unprecedented recognition. The Federal Aviation Administration considered creating a special commendation, something that had never been done for someone so young. Flight schools across the country began examining their training protocols, inspired by Sarah's remarkable story. Scholarship offers poured in. MIT, Stanford, top aerospace engineering programs all expressed interest in the young prodigy. But Elena and Robert remained grounded, focused on ensuring Sarah's emotional well-being amid the media storm. What emerged was more than just a story of a miraculous landing. It was a narrative about preparation, about the incredible potential that lies dormant in unexpected places. Sarah Martinez had become a symbol of human capability, a reminder that extraordinary potential knows no age limit. The media sensation would eventually fade, but the true story of courage, preparation, and unexpected heroism would become a legend that would inspire generations to come. The sky, which had been both challenge and salvation on that extraordinary day, continued to watch, silent, vast, and full of infinite possibilities. The envelope arrived on a crisp Tuesday morning, 3 weeks after Sarah's extraordinary flight. Its arrival was so unremarkable that it almost escaped notice. A plain, heavyweight paper envelope with no return address, simply addressed to Sarah Martinez in silver-embossed calligraphy that seemed both elegant and slightly unsettling. Elena Martinez first noticed the envelope while sorting through the mountain of mail that had accumulated since her daughter's unexpected fame. Charity requests, interview proposals, scholarship offers, these had become their new normal. But this envelope was different. There was something about its weight, its texture, that made her pause. The Martinez household had transformed in the weeks following the emergency landing. Robert was still recovering, his medical treatments a constant reminder of how close they had come to losing everything. Sarah moved through the house with a mixture of her usual confidence and a new, almost indefinable gravitas that seemed to have aged her beyond her 12 years. When Sarah opened the envelope, the contents defied immediate comprehension. A single sheet of paper, constructed from what appeared to be handmade paper with intricate filigree edges. The text was printed in a font that seemed to dance between classical elegance and modern precision. Confidential invitation, the horizon. Initiative cordially invites Sarah Martinez to participate in an exclusive evaluation. Program designed for individuals of extraordinary potential. Location. Classified date. To be determined purpose. Potential. Advancement of human capability. Further details will be communicated through secure channels. Absolute discretion is requested. Beneath the text, a seal neither governmental nor corporate, but something entirely unique. A stylized compass rose intertwined with what appeared to be mathematical equations, and what might have been a molecular structure. No contact information. No phone number. No email address. Robert and Elena Martinez approached the invitation with a mixture of professional skepticism and parental protective instinct. Elena, with her background in scientific research, began a methodical investigation. "The paper," she noted to Robert, "is unlike anything I've seen. Custom watermark, unusual fiber composition. This isn't standard corporate stationery. Robert, still recovering but sharp as ever, examined the seal. His years in aviation had trained him to notice details. This isn't from any organization I recognize. And I've worked with government contractors, military research teams, aerospace companies. Sarah remained curiously calm. The media sensation, the near-death experience, the sudden fame, none of these had seemed to rattle her. And now, this mysterious invitation elicited the same measured response. "What do you think it means?" she asked, her question more analytical than excited. Their initial investigations revealed frustratingly little. The name Horizon Initiative returned no definitive results in any database. No registered corporation, no academic research group, no government program matched the description. Private. Investigators hired by the family came up empty-handed. The most advanced digital forensics teams could find no digital trace of the organization. It was as if the invitation had materialized from thin air, much like Sarah's extraordinary moment of aviation heroism. Academic institutions began to take notice. MIT's Advanced Research Department expressed quiet interest. Psychological profilers who had studied Sarah's case noted her extraordinary cognitive abilities, spatial reasoning that exceeded typical developmental markers, a combination of technical understanding and emotional intelligence that defied conventional categorization. The invitation became a topic of quiet speculation. Was this a government program? A private research initiative? Some suggested it might be related to advanced education programs for gifted children. Others whispered about more exotic possibilities advanced. Research into human potential, secret government programs exploring extraordinary capabilities. Alina's scientific background drove her to approach the invitation systematically. She began documenting everything: the paper's composition, the seal's design, the invitation's cryptic language. Each analysis led to more questions than answers. Robert's aviation network proved equally puzzled. Contacts in military research, aerospace engineering, and advanced training programs all claimed no knowledge of the Horizon Initiative. Yet, there was an undercurrent of curiosity, a sense that something significant might be happening just beyond the edges of known institutional boundaries. Sarah herself seemed the least concerned. Her focus remained on her father's recovery, on continuing her education, on processing the extraordinary events that had transformed her life. But late at night, when the house was quiet, she would sometimes take out the invitation, study its intricate details, wonder about the possibilities it represented. The seal seemed to change subtly in different lights' mathematical equations. That seemed to shift. A compass rose that appeared to have depth beyond its two-dimensional representation. Weeks passed, then months. The invitation remained, a silent promise of something extraordinary waiting just beyond the horizon of known possibility. And then, precisely 3 months after its arrival, a second communication would begin to unfold a development that would challenge everything the Martinez family understood about potential, about capability, about the very nature of human extraordinary achievement. The invitation was more than a piece of paper. It was a threshold, an invitation to a journey that had yet to be fully understood. The transformation was subtle at first, almost imperceptible to those who weren't paying close attention. But for the Martinez family, the world had irrevocably changed, becoming a landscape of infinite possibilities that stretched far beyond the boundaries of conventional understanding. 6 months after the extraordinary flight, Sarah's life had become a delicate balance of extraordinary potential and remarkable normalcy. By day, she attended a specialized educational program, her academic performance defying traditional age-based limitations. By night, she continued to explore the mysterious invitation from the Horizon Initiative, a puzzle that seemed to grow more complex with each passing week. Robert's recovery had been nothing short of miraculous. the heart attack that had threatened to end his life had become a turning point, a catalyst for a deeper understanding of human resilience. Physical therapy had transformed from a medical necessity to a journey of rediscovery. He spent hours with Sarah, no longer just teaching her about aviation, but learning from her extraordinary perspective. Elena had taken a sabbatical from her meteorological research, dedicating her scientific expertise to understanding the broader implications of her daughter's experience. The line between professional research and personal investigation had become beautifully blurred. The first concrete communication from the Horizon Initiative arrived on a crisp autumn morning. Not another invitation, but a series of complex, cognitive assessments, puzzles that defied traditional psychological evaluation methods. Mathematical challenges intertwined with spatial reasoning tests, embedded with what appeared to be advanced problem-solving scenarios that seemed to transcend any standard educational framework. Sarah approached the assessments with her characteristic calm. Where most children would have seen an overwhelming challenge, she saw an intricate system waiting to be understood. Her solutions weren't just correct, they were revolutionary, revealing thought patterns that suggested capabilities far beyond her chronological age. A scientific community watched with a mixture of fascination and professional skepticism. Cognitive researchers, aviation experts, and child development specialists began to piece together a more comprehensive understanding of Sarah's extraordinary capabilities. What emerged was a profile that defied conventional categorization. Sarah possessed a unique combination of technical understanding, emotional intelligence, and cognitive flexibility that suggested something more than mere prodigy status. Her ability to integrate complex information, to see connections that others missed, was becoming increasingly apparent. The Horizon Initiative remained an enigma. No traditional communication channels, no phone numbers, no email addresses, no physical address. Their interactions were surgical in their precision, their communication method seemingly designed to challenge conventional understanding. A series of specialized workshops began not traditional educational experiences, but immersive learning environments that pushed the boundaries of human potential. Sarah found herself solving complex aerospace engineering challenges, exploring advanced theoretical physics concepts, and engaging with problem-solving scenarios that seemed to blur the lines between education and cutting-edge research. Roberts' aviation network became an unexpected ally. Retired military pilots, aerospace engineers, and advanced research specialists began to take a quiet interest. They saw in Sarah something beyond a miraculous story, a potential key to understanding human capability in its most extraordinary form. The media attention had slowly transformed. Where initial coverage had been about the dramatic emergency landing, now the narrative was shifting. Documentaries explored the deeper questions. What allows a child to perform extraordinarily under extreme pressure? What combination of preparation, innate ability, and psychological resilience creates such remarkable potential? Elena's scientific approach provided another layer of understanding. She began documenting everything, not just as a mother, but as a rigorous researcher. Cognitive assessments, psychological evaluations, detailed logs of Sarah's problem-solving approaches. Each piece of data added to a growing mosaic of extraordinary human potential. The Horizon Initiative's communications became more nuanced, less about testing, more about exploration. They seemed less interested in categorizing Sarah's abilities and more focused on understanding the broader implications of human potential. A breakthrough came unexpectedly. During one of the specialized workshops, Sarah solved a complex aerospace engineering problem that had stumped professional researchers for years. The solution wasn't just innovative, it suggested an entirely new approach to understanding aerodynamic principles. The scientific community began to take serious notice. Conferences were organized, research papers were drafted. Sarah wasn't just a remarkable child, she was becoming a bridge to understanding human capability in its most extraordinary form. Robert's recovery took on a new dimension. Where once he had been the teacher, now he found himself learning from his daughter. Their relationship transformed into a partnership of exploration, each bringing unique perspectives to understanding human potential. The mysterious invitation that had arrived months ago no longer seemed like an enigma. It had become a gateway, an invitation to a journey of discovery that extended far beyond traditional educational or professional boundaries. As the year drew to a close, the Martinez family understood something profound. Extraordinary potential isn't about individual achievement. It's about the delicate interplay of preparation, opportunity, and the willingness to see beyond conventional limitations. Sarah's story was no longer just about a miraculous emergency landing. It had become a testament to human potential, a reminder that the most extraordinary capabilities often emerge in the most unexpected moments. The horizon, once a distant line separating known from unknown, had become a landscape of infinite possibility. And Sarah Martinez was just beginning her journey.